Hello and welcome. This is OP-1 and OP-1 Field. In this video we're going to give an overview of their synthesizer. OP-1's primary feature is its synthesizer. Specifically, it's a digital synthesizer that's monotimbral with 6 voice polyphony and 1 digitally controlled oscillator per voice. It has several different synth engines, each of which has several presets. Only one synth engine can be loaded at a time. An effect and LFO can be applied to each synth engine. And there's an ADSR envelope as well. Let's get started. Synth Mode is accessed by pressing the Synth button below the speaker. This brings up the main page of the current synth engine. If we play the keyboard, we can hear the currently selected sound preset, and we may see some graphical feedback on the screen. A quick note, the original has a fixed velocity keyboard, while Field has a velocity-sensitive keyboard. OP-1 Synth is unique because each of its synth engines features a graphical representation providing visual feedback and character. Some are experimental and abstract while others are helpful. On Field, in some synth engines, pressing down one of the 4 encoders shows its current parameter. An important concept to know about OP-1 Synth is that it is based on different modules, which can be changed as desired. The 4 modules are accessed in Synth Mode using the T buttons below the display, and they are the Synth Engine, an envelope, an effect, and an LFO. To dial in the sound design you want, you can select one of the many synth engines, adjust the ADSR envelope, try a few effects and LFOs until you have a sound you like. Let's look at each of these. When you enter Synth Mode, the Synth Engine page is displayed. We see a graphical interpretation of the synth engine. Use the 4 encoders to change parameters of the current synth engine. The encoders are color matched to the graphics. Also, in some engines, holding Shift provides additional parameters and settings. If we press and hold Shift and press the T1 button, we can change the current synth engine. A list will appear and you can select an engine via the blue encoder knob. Pressing T1 again will bring us back to the main synth engine page. Just a quick note, check out our dedicated video on OP-1's synth engines where those are explained in detail. Another quick note, Field features the Dimension synth engine and vocoder which are not available on the original. Press the T2 button to get to the synthesizer envelope page. Here we have an ADSR envelope being applied to the synth engine. Use the 4 encoders to control its parameters. On the original, blue is attack, green is decay, white is sustain, and orange is release. Holding Shift allows us to change the play mode and portamento of the synth engine. Hold Shift and rotate the blue encoder to change between polyphonic, monophonic, legato, and unison. Hold Shift and rotate the green encoder to adjust portamento. On Field, blue is attack, ochre is decay, gray is sustain, and orange is release. Press and hold Shift to display the same settings as the original and some additional settings, bend range, and volume. Pressing the T3 button below the display brings up the Synthesizer Effects page. Depending on the sound preset, the effect may be on or off by default. Pressing T3 toggles the effect to engage or disengage. Press and hold the Help button to display information about the current preset. In the center of the screen, the preset name is displayed. The number in front is the current sound number. More on this later. On the display, above the T buttons, we see icons for each module. Looking at the effect and LFO icons, we can tell if they are currently engaged or disengaged. Returning to the Synth Effect page, if we press and hold Shift and press the T3 button, we can change the current effect in this sound preset. A list of effects appears. Use the blue encoder to select one. By pressing T3 again, we return back to the effect page. We can toggle the effect on and off using the T3 button. Use the 4 encoders to adjust the parameters of the current effect. Press and hold Shift and then turning an encoder allows for finer adjustments. Note, Field features the Mother Reverb effect which isn't available on the original. Another note, effects will be covered in detail in a dedicated video. Pressing the T4 button brings up the Synthesizer LFO page. Like the effect page, pressing T4 will toggle the LFO on or off. If you press and hold Shift and then press T4, we get a list of LFOs on board OP-1. Use the blue encoder to select an LFO. Pressing T4 returns us back to the LFO page. The 4 encoders are used to change parameters of the current LFO. Press and hold Shift, then turning an encoder allows for finer adjustments. Use an LFO to dynamically alter the parameters of the synth engine. Note, LFOs will be covered in detail in a dedicated video. These 4 modules are stored within a sound preset. Changing the preset will load a new set of modules and settings. In Synth Mode, you can store 8 different presets using the sound buttons below the encoders. Let's take a look at sound presets. By pressing sound buttons, the display changes to show the synth engine of that preset. Playing the keyboard, we can hear the current preset. We can adjust parameters and swap modules as we saw before, or we can change the preset stored within that sound button. Before we change presets, it's important to remember that OP-1 autosaves changes in real time. For example, if we adjust settings of a preset, those settings are held in the current sound button, even if the device is power cycled. This is different from saving a preset, which we'll discuss shortly. Let's say we made changes to a preset and we want to go back to the original preset. Press and hold Shift, then press the Synth Mode button to reset the current preset. It can be easy to lose track of changes we made and which preset is currently selected. Press and hold the Help button to display this information. If changes were made to the preset, it will display an asterisk after the preset name. Additionally, the current sound button is displayed before the preset name, which is handy to double check before selecting a different preset. Press and hold Shift, then press a sound number. The display shows a list of synth engines in the first column and presets within that engine in the second column. On the original, use the blue encoder to navigate synth engines, and use the green encoder to navigate presets. This is similar on Field, but with different colors. Play the keyboard to hear the selected preset. Press the Synth Mode button to close the list. This saves the preset into the sound button. Additionally, let's say you modified a preset and you want to save it. Press and hold a sound button for 5 seconds to create a new preset. Note that this isn't saving over the original preset, but instead saving a snapshot. Snapshots are user-defined presets in OP-1 for both synth and drum modes. They can be recalled from a list when you change a sound preset like we just learned. Select Snapshot as the synth engine using the first encoder and select a specific snapshot using the second encoder. Snapshots are named with a timestamp of when they were created. On Field, snapshots can be renamed and deleted using the T buttons below the display. Additionally, snapshots can be transferred and stored on a computer. With OP-1 connected to a computer via a USB cable, press and hold Shift and then press the COM button. Press the T3 button to enter disk mode. On Field, this is slightly different. Press and hold Shift and then press the COM button. Now press and hold Shift and press the T4 button to enter disk mode. After a few seconds, OP-1 will appear as a drive on your computer. Select the Synth folder, then the Snapshots folder. Snapshots are AIF audio files that you can transfer to and from your computer, though this audio file isn't one that you can load into a DAW or elsewhere. OP-1 converts data to audio to store it, and it converts it back when you load the snapshot into OP-1. It's similar to how the Pocket operator PO33KO can create a data transfer of its contents for backup. Eject OP-1 from the computer when finished. There's one thing that's important to clarify regarding loading synth sounds. We saw 2 methods of doing this, and they are not the same. If we press and hold Shift and the T1 button, we're essentially loading an initialized synth engine without changing the other modules, Synth Envelope, Synth Effect, and Synth LFO. If we press and hold Shift and select one of the 8 sound buttons, we are changing all of the modules as part of the preset. One last note, though most of the synth engines and presets are the same between OP-1 Original and Field, Field has a stereo signal path and 32-bit audio processing. This greatly improves the sound quality on Field. See the corresponding synth engines video for more information. Hey, please subscribe if you learned something. We hope you found it helpful. Check out the description for more videos in this series. Thanks.